Hello and welcome back to Driver and the Kid. Today we have what I think is an instant modern classic. It's the Ferrari GTC4 Lusso and it's the V12. Today I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why it's going to be an instant classic. We're going to go through all of those, have a look around this car, take it for a drive, and then just next to it are 2 very, very special Ferraris that we're going to check out as well. So please enjoy. So we'll start with the very most obvious reason why the GTC4 Lusso is an instant classic, and that is the very unique looks. This started with the FF about 10 years ago and it ends in 2020 to be replaced by a big old SUV looking thing. So it's left us with a small time period where we have this shooting brake design, which is very much a love or hate relationship that people have with it. Personally, I absolutely love the looks of this car. You've got this bread van or shooting brake sort of look that you will not see in any other Ferrari or really any other supercar, let alone the fact that it's mated to a V12 engine. We'll look around the back of the car and like no other Ferrari of its time, you have a 2+2 seating with enough room in the back and a decent amount of luggage space, which will show you. Some other aesthetic features which I particularly enjoy are these side little louvers or fins at the side of the car, which in this black Nero paintwork look fantastic with the grille and that aesthetic. On top of that, the rear of the car is very reminiscent of the 812 Superfast. If you're looking at the car dead on, you may be mistaken for thinking that it's an 812 instead. When we head inside, lovely tan interior, 4 seats, the Ferrari crest on each of the headrests, and it's just beautifully done, leather and stitching everywhere. And I'll maybe jump in the back and give you a look from that angle. We've got a huge sunroof as well. The next thing we're going to look at is our second reason why this is an instant classic, and it's that V12 up front. So number 2 on the list, why the Lusso is an instant classic. Well, it's this front mid-mounted F140 V12. It's, in my opinion, possibly the greatest sounding engine of all time for a road car. 507 kilowatts, just shy of 700 Newton meters. Peak power comes in at a glorious 8,000 RPM. It's connected to a 7-speed dual clutch auto. And look, the F140 engine, which may be leaving us very soon, it started with the Enzo and it's 6.3 litres in this, guys, with the Lusso. It's just an incredible engine. We're never going to see these things for that long, I don't think. And yeah, looks fantastic from the engine bay as well. They're just an amazing thing and I can't wait to drive it. So the third and final reason why the Lusso is going to be an instant modern classic is because it is an all-wheel drive car, an all-wheel drive Ferrari with a patented system that is unlike any other I've heard of before. It started with the FF and it was redeveloped with the 4RM Evo system in the Lusso. It can transmit 20% of torque to the front of the car and it only works in the first 3 modes on the Manettino switch. It also turns off at over 120 miles per hour, and I'll show you on the steering wheel in a second. So welcome to the lovely interior of the GTC4 Lusso. As you can see on our Manettino switch in front of us here, we have a snow, wet and comfort modes, and they're the 3 modes where our 4RM Evo system works, from a standstill up to 120 miles per hour. When we put our Manettino into sport and ESC off mode, however, the front is disengaged and this is a purely rear-wheel drive car. So if you want to do drifts or you want to drive safely in all sorts of conditions, you have the ability to do so in these 5 different modes. Okay, we're sitting in the back of the Lusso and I can tell you that the seats feel, I would say, relatively hard, but kind of purposeful, like a sports seat. And easily the best feature is this panoramic sunroof. Everything is really nice in here. We have our interesting air conditioning vents, which look very sporty, dual cup holders, and we have a couple of USB ports here if you want to charge your phone while you're going all the way to 335 kilometers per hour. So like all Ferraris, we have our options list on a plaque on the back of the car. So the interior is actually named Beige Tradizione, which, you know, sounds better than me saying tan. We also have, very importantly, the panoramic sunroof on the left here, which is a $17,000 option, which really aids with the feeling of space in the rear. I think without the panoramic sunroof, things would feel a little bit claustrophobic. Now, before we go for a drive, I did promise you that we'd be checking out two very special Ferraris. We're going to do that, and then we're going to take the Ford Lusso for a drive. So from the Lusso we head inside and find two very special Ferraris, both in Ferrari special paint, Alumínio Opaco, an incredible looking, I would say, satin silver. We'll start with the TDF, which we've had on the channel a long time ago, but you can't blame us for checking it out a second time. Just an incredible looking machine. You may have seen recently at the F1, the 812 Competizione has been released, and it really differentiates from the styling of this car, which I think adds some value to both, to be honest, so that they don't just look the same. And then next to the TDF is the Ferrari Pista Spider. Now this car, in the same color, but absolutely festooned with carbon fiber. And I'll tell you in a second what the red color is, but this red carbon is everywhere, particularly the interior, which is like a jewelry box. It's just incredible. Door cards completely in red carbon fiber, and these seats are glorious. So the red carbon, geez, that is an expensive front splitter, is, would you say Ferruccio?
Rosso?
Rosso.
Which is red.
Rosso.
Lucido. Bright and shiny.
Rosso Lucido is the red. And I forgot to mention that the Ferrari special paint, the Alumínio Opaco, is 55,000 Australian dollars before taxes. So between the two, pretty staggering. One last hidden, very cool piece of memorabilia. This has been worn by Schumacher. San Marino Grand Prix, signed as well. There's the famous name. And it's fitting with the rest of the Ferraris. This is the stuff of dreams. Not to mention we have some more Ferrari memorabilia, more cars, and every man cave needs one of these, of course. All right, let's take the Lusso for a drive. Okay, welcome to the GTC Ford Lusso, and many thanks to the owner for letting us take it for a drive. First impressions are that the car sits a little bit higher than I thought it would. The seats are nice and purposeful, and the view at the back is really not that bad. The visibility is quite good in your mirrors, front and side, so that's pretty cool. We've got our leather-bound steering wheel, and we're going to put ourselves maybe in comfort on our Manettino switch to start. We've got our bumpy road mode, which is probably quite useful for Australia's terrible potholed roads. We're not going to be doing a launch control today, but 0 to 100 does turn up in 3.4 seconds with the Lusso, which is very fast for a 4-seater V12 vehicle. Ooh. All right, and we're on our way. It's really foreign for me to have the indicators on the steering wheel. I can't say I'm that much of a regular Ferrari driver. So I have had the pleasure of driving this briefly before, and I can say, even though this is the, I guess, the most comfortable and the Ferrari that you would use the most out of the entire stable, the steering is still incredibly sharp, and it's that classic, almost hypersensitive steering, which is exacerbated, I think, at higher speeds with the four-wheel steering, which turns the car or pivots the car at an even greater speed than the front wheels do. So if we change our Manettino to Sport, as I was saying before, we do not get the all-wheel drive system. We're in purely rear-wheel drive, and that stiffens our adaptive suspension as well, and of course gives us more aggressive and harder shifts with the dual clutch automatic. But at all times, that V12 thrumming in front of us is making its presence known. I think that's what you spend the extra money and fuel definitely for, is that experience of having a V12. At slow speeds, it's still entertaining. And just under 3,000 RPM is when you start to hear the V12 just wake up. Responsiveness in sport mode is ridiculous. Even just going at residential speeds, the responsiveness is enormous. As I said, we've got peak torque at, peak power comes in at 8,000 RPM. We won't be doing that on this road right now, but I can imagine on the Autobahn it would sound incredible. One thing I was thinking is that this drives like no other 2+2 or 4-seater car I've ever driven before. It feels essentially like a supercar, even though this car is almost, I would say, pushing near 2 tons of weight, at least with 2 passengers in it. It does not feel that heavy at all at the steering wheel. I'm not a big fan of the paddles stuck to the steering column, but I think if they're big enough, this shouldn't make too much of an issue while you're driving, as you won't be changing gears that often at sharp corners, I wouldn't think. I love how aggressive the gear changes are at any speed. As I said, the number 2 reason why this will be an instant modern classic is that F140 V12 ahead of us, all 6.3 litres worth. And you can play it like an instrument at all times. And the flywheel must be so light. As soon as I take my foot off the accelerator, the revs just drop down straight away. It's such a finely tuned engine that there's no rev hang whatsoever, even though it's such a large capacity. So that is our Lusso review. I hope I've convinced you that it is definitely a modern classic, and I think will continue to be looked at as desirable in future. A massive thank you to the owner of these 3 Ferraris. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like this video. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.